Okay, now let's move on to our testimonies. Before we get into it, I'd like to read from the church manual the section entitled Testimonials. Glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. St. Paul. Testimony in regard to the healing of the sick is highly important. More than a mere rehearsal of blessings, it scales the pinnacle of praise and illustrates the demonstration of Christ who healeth all thy diseases. This testimony, however, shall not include a description of symptoms or of suffering, though the generic name of the disease may be indicated. For those giving testimonies tonight, please keep your remarks within 4 minutes so that everyone will have a chance to share their offering. And for those that are on the teleconference, when you're ready to give your testimony, please press star 1 and then listen for the acknowledgement message that your hand is raised. That lets us know that you're ready, and when we're ready here, we will call on you. And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Carla from New York, go ahead.
Good evening. I want to give my sincere gratitude to God for guiding me to the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. Thank you to the church for being so generous and for sharing all your resources about Christian Science, especially for the Bible study and the roundtable audios. They are of a great help and an inspiration to me. The first time that I listened to one of the audios, I felt your love for God and that He is present. Never doubted and accepted each statement as you were talking to me. Took note, also wrote down past statements and assignments. Sometimes wrote them in Spanish. It helped me to be calm and hopeful. One morning, after a week of just listening, I felt a great sense of peace that I never experienced before. And I knew that something very special was happening to me. And I just stayed quiet and said, thank you, God. Thank you to the Plainfield Church practitioner for her support. Thank you for a beautiful service tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Elsie from Alabama, go ahead.
Thank you. I got my Liberator magazine last week, and it was on a night that we were having a watch. Almost missed it. Got so involved in it. But there was something in this I don't know if everyone has read their magazine or not, but there was an article in here that came home to me, and I thought I'd share it with you. I've been a Christian Scientist for many, many years, and many times I have questioned what I do know and how I should use it. Well, this article gave me the answer. It's entitled Unprofitable Comparisons, and it's written by Samuel Greenwood. And the last paragraph said, to correctly understand our own individual place in God's universe, which is possible to us in Christian Science, is to understand the harmonious interrelationship of all the ideas in God's infinite creation. In this understanding, we each have our own position, which another cannot fill. Our own work which another cannot do, and our own reward, which no other can receive. Realizing this, we can be satisfied to just be ourselves, no matter how modest our position seems or how insignificant our work appears to be, knowing that the position rightly filled and that work well done are essential to the perfection and harmony of God's universe. And as it turned out, on the calendar on that day, it was a Mary Baker Eddy statement. Know that nothing can hinder, delay, or limit God-directed, God-protected, and God-placed activity. Our prayers are really answered, and I'm so grateful that I have found this. Thank you.
Thank you. Luann from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. Nothing in my life could have helped me to understand God as well as the study of Christian Science. Even though God has been constantly preparing me all these years, I would never have recognized God's presence in my life until Christian Science had been introduced to me. I'm so thankful to my practitioner who continues to work with me, changing my misconceptions with truth and restoring the years the locusts have eaten. I think back over the days of my life from time to time, not to dwell on what I used to see as pain and sadness, having learned of its illusion, but to revisit those days and see them as they truly were. Moments in my experience when God was there, comforting me, teaching and guiding me, saving those I love. In doing so, I have seen a new life standing right there where the old one appeared before. The light of God has shined upon the hidden places and changed my misconceptions into one of understanding. When I read the Bible and learn how God's hand was governing the lives and actions of those events in history, I think back upon my own story, and I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for all the times God's mercy and grace fell upon me and my family. Those moments were all but forgotten under the mud of painful remembrances. One day while home alone, my brother had a very serious accident. A mile away, my other brother, who was doing the afternoon chores on a nearby farm, for no explainable reason, got the urgent message to go home. He did not dismiss it and went home immediately. He was able to help and save his brother. Before the lessons taught to me through Christian Science, I only saw this as another tragedy that had befallen my family, yet another reason to doubt God. Now I understand that an angel of God spoke to my brother and sent him home where he was needed. Understanding it this way has changed my view of the event from one of tragedy to an understanding of love. There are many stories like this in my experience, and in every one of them is a blessing from God. I'm so thankful my eyes have been lifted above the muddy waters that was keeping me from seeing the truth. Right there where the pain and suffering of the past appeared so real was God expressing himself spiritually, infinitely living, moving, and having his being. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone is calling in from area code 541. Would you please announce yourself and then go ahead with your testimony?
Yes, thank you. This is Ellen from Oregon, and I just would like to say good evening to all the Plainfield congregation and express my gratitude for all the wonderful resources and the spiritual inspiration being offered by the Plainfield Church. This week I had an instantaneous healing that I'd like to relate to you. I have a dog who is one of the sweetest creatures I've ever met in my life. And he is kind and gentle and just only wants to be loving. Early in the morning, a couple of days ago, I the dog came and sat on the bed, and he was looking at me, and I was petting him, and he looked right at me and took his very large paw and raced it right through my eye. I immediately yelled no, and the first time I yelled no, I think it was kind of an ouchie no, but I really decided immediately, instantly, that this was a no, because this was a beautiful expression of God that was looking right at me for love and could not in any way injure me. And so quickly, by extension, it came to me that no idea of God, no expression of God could injure another, and that we were all safe in God's love. And I will tell you that there was absolutely no result of that incident, and it really helped me to extend my understanding of God's protection for all ideas, for all his children, for all his expressions. And so I was very grateful for this, and it was a lovely, vivid experience and absolutely instantly taken care of. And I would actually say that my recent ability to look at Plainfield offerings and be connected to what is being offered here has really helped me to be much more instant and beginning to really more deeply look into what is my spiritual creation, what is God's spiritual creation, the goodness of God, and the power of God. And I would just like to express my gratitude and say thank you and good night.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead. Okay, Linda, we can't hear you. You may be on mute where you are.
Terribly sorry, I double muted. I wanted to, good evening, and I want to thank the readers for their beautiful readings tonight, beautifully read, and the lovely testimonies. I also want to express my gratitude this evening for my Plainfield practitioner and her wonderful support. I'd like to share of an incident recently. I went for a dental checkup. In the last few visits, there was concern expressed about my gums, and the practitioner knew about this and was supporting me. And she has been helping me get a better understanding of my spiritual identity. As I was sitting in the car getting ready for the doctor appointment, I opened a book that I had on my seat with some Bible quotes, and I turned to Psalms 40, and it said, "He hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God." And I just took that with me to the visit, and also used many ideas that the practitioner had suggested, like working with, I can't think of it right now, sorry. But anyways, I was in the office, and it was a much calmer visit for me. The dentist is not my favorite place, but I felt calm and peace and joy. And the dental hygienist was so thrilled that the inflammation in my gums had gone away. She was just kept expressing her excitement about that, but I know that the change was the result of the practitioner's work, of which I'm so grateful for. And I'm also so grateful for Plainfield for putting a new song in my mouth. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
A few days ago, I woke up in quite a funk. The thought was coming very clearly, you don't want to get out of bed today. You've got no reason to get out of bed today. And then that was followed by all kinds of thoughts that all the projects I've been working on aren't really any good and you're wasting your life. I mean, it was pretty aggressive. And for a few seconds, it was quite convincing, and I was starting to get a little depressed about it. But I realized that this is not something that God would ever want or condone for his children. And I realized I needed to get to work. And I prayed to God to show me what it was that I needed to know and what I needed to take care of. And just quietly asked him to show me. And very quickly the thought came, well, you need to handle opposition to the work that's going on in this church. Because I was indeed doing things that were useful to God. And wouldn't the devil like it for me to get discouraged and think that it wasn't useful or that it wasn't right? And so I became a little more forceful and a little more angry at these thoughts and took them up. And pretty soon they left. And I felt good about getting up and good about doing what God wanted me to do that day. And early that day I edited a lesson that had been written by someone that needed some editing, and that worked out well, and I went off to work and had a good day. But I'm so grateful for the training that I've received in this church and for Christian Science for showing me that when these thoughts come to us, we have a divine right to stop them right there and reverse them and get the blessing from it. I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you.
In Miscellany by Mary Baker Eddy on page 273, I found something I'm grateful for. The ultimatum of life, here and hereafter, is utterly apart from a material or personal sense of pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow, life, and death. The truth of life, or life in truth, is a scientific knowledge that is portentous. It is won only by the spiritual understanding of life as God, good, ever-present good, and therefore life eternal. When God guided me to Plainfield, I felt I had no worth at all. Yet every day he shows me that when I work for him, I have worth. I am grateful to be learning that the work we do now is not just preparation for a future time and place. I'm so blessed to have this opportunity to learn that true fulfillment and real progress only occurs with God. To know that focusing on the ever-present good has immediate effect, bringing blessings for me and others, completely changed me. What a gift that is. Thank you. And I also have a testimony from Lauren.
Hi, this is Lauren from San Francisco Bay Area in California, and I'd like to share a blessing that I received from last week's Wednesday evening testimony meeting at the Christian Science Independent Church in Plainfield. One of the testifiers last week was from Georgia, and she mentioned how she had been healed of something, but then she gave a reference to Herbert Eustace's Christian Science Clear Correct Teaching, one volume, the section on infection, what it is and how it operates. And I went ahead and looked that up, and I had been suffering from some chronic pains. I know the church manual doesn't want us to go into detail about suffering, so I'll skip that part. But the reference was really good in helping to improve the situation quite well. And so my point is that these meetings have a dual purpose, not only giving gratitude, but sharing and giving instruction to others, how they can help work on things that they're working on. So a couple of things. Folks, really encourage people to tune in every week. There's a blessing. And then if you're sort of sitting on the fence and wondering if you need to speak up and give a testimony, I'd encourage you to do so because it could bless someone else. So thank you very much and appreciate the opportunity to share. I'm grateful for Plainfield Christian Science Independent
and Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, the local practitioners, the readers, and everyone that helps there, including Jeremy that helps get this recording online. Thank you very much, and have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.
And thank you to both of you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for this beautiful service and everyone's participation. On Monday, the 19th, I had a lovely morning and talked with the practitioner. Then by the afternoon, I started to feel unsettled, and I didn't know what was wrong because everything had been so harmonious. So I went about my day, and I was very careful and watchful, and everything I did was all right, but I still had this niggling feeling. And then I remembered that it had been suggested to do a watch, a personal watch, and somebody had fallen once, or almost fallen, and did a watch, and I heard it here on a Wednesday night. So I came home, and I did a watch, and it was wonderful. And this was one of the things of the many. And I looked at my watch, and my wristwatch, and I had been working for 55 minutes. This is one of the things I was reading. Christ consciousness beholds God everywhere, shining through the mist of personal sense. It recognizes no sinner to be reformed, no sick to heal, no poor to enrich. Spiritual illumination dispels the false concepts or images of finite sense and reveals all being as God appearing. Well, that really, really meant a lot to me. And after the watch, I got up and I did many work things that needed attention. So I thank you, Plainfield. I never knew about watches until I came to Plainfield. Thank you, and thank you for everything. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for those readings. Both of them were very inspiring, and I can't mind that they were so inspiring. I remember Isaiah, when he had said, Jesus too, I think, repeated something like that, and felt it was so inspiring. So you go throughout all time that this beautiful Christ thought it's moving us too. Thank you. It's so good that Mary Baker Eddy has discovered Christian Science, and we have something to work for here for our supportive practitioners and church family. I just in between jobs, I'm a consultant, computers, and networking, and but it's fine because I just been prepared for the next job. And when the suggestions say things that like that it's not coming or where is it or I need to go back to God. Our practitioner had told me, and it has come true, to look to God. We're doing His work, and to look to Him, to expect whatever I need to come from Him. And it has come through the last 3 months. She told me from Isaiah, 2 Kings 31st, and His allowance was a continual allowance given to Him of the King, a daily rate all the days of his life. And I go back to that, and it's been coming so true, and it helped me keep my peace and just see the fruition of whatever I need was provided. Even the wisdom not to go out and spend when I shouldn't. But God is, He has everything in control, and we are sincerely looking to do His work, and He will take care of us and does. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for the roundtable discussions, and especially we've been going over prose works, and it's really coming alive for me. Recently, we were discussing the article Obedience, and I had gotten a gift certificate, and one day I thought, well, I'm going to go to the store, I need a few things, I'm going to use this gift certificate. But I wasn't really peaceful, and the thought from the article came that the disobedient make their move before or after God. So I got peaceful, and the thought came, no, this is God telling me not to do it. Well, Saturday, I got the thought again. I thought, I don't want to go out, it's cold. And I remembered another sentence from that article: be sure that God directs your way, then hasten to follow under every circumstance. So I got quiet, and the thought was, yes, this is from God. Well, I went, and not only was I able to purchase what I originally needed, but a few other things with money to spare. And I just said, thank you, God. You met my need. I was obedient, and I got my reward. I'm just so grateful for the practitioners that lead these classes, and for everyone that contributes, because everybody's input always is so helpful. I'm just so grateful to be in this church and to be able to work with a practitioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been reading the article called Body by Mary Baker Eddy recently. And in one particular place, she's talking about if thought can have an effect on the body. And then Mrs. Eddy says, all the thought that the world was flat didn't flatten it, did it? And that has been such a help for me, because any thought that comes to me that's not godlike, it can't have an effect on me. It can't touch the perfect child of God's creation. And that has been such a help, and it made you laugh when you read it. It was just, I just thought it just made error look so stupid, which it is. And it's trying to trick us, and it can't. And I just am so very grateful for that article, and grateful for all the things that I'm learning, and grateful for practitioner help, and how things are moving along, and I'm very grateful for it. And thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to give thanks for a blessing that we've received recently. Well, it kind of goes like this. Have you ever reached the point where you're tempted to say or think, well, I guess I've done everything that I can. I guess I've gone as far as I can with this. I can't really go any further. Well, those kinds of arguments, that may be true of human ambition, but can you say that about God and His work? God's work is done. It is complete and it is perfect. And this talks about a little incident that happened recently, which resulted in a great blessing for us. Dear Teresa from Argentina translates our lessons every week and sends them to us so that we can include them on our website, including an audio file. She reads the lesson in Spanish, records it, sends us the file, and it is available to anyone who goes to our website to read or listen. Well, for this week, evidently she was having a lot of trouble getting the transmission, sending the files to us. Spent some time doing it and gave me a description. It sounded like there was quite a battle to find a way to make it go through. But there was never any hint in her discussion that she was going to give up on it. That never entered in. And as it ended up, she was able to engage the help of her son, who found a way to send us the files. And because of that, they are available for everyone to listen to. So this is just a classic example, if you ask me, of God puts us in each place where He wants, and He gives each of us the talents that are needed to perform His work. And because of that, we have our Spanish lesson. Thank you, Teresa. And I just want to say one more thing about our lessons. You get up in the morning, you read the lesson, you feel good about it. I'm not talking about a self-indulgent feeling good, but more that it leaves an impress on you, and you know that it is indeed good. What a blessing we have to have these lessons to read and study. And what a great way to start every day. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to give gratitude tonight for the resources that are on the website. This week, one night, was very difficult. All kinds of thoughts that I really didn't understand where they were coming from, but I do know now that all of these come to dissuade us from doing God's work. So as usual, in the morning, I was still quite unsettled. And I've been using Bicknell Young's article on day. And it talks about when you wake up in the morning, to know that the belief of time has no dominion over you or others. You have dominion over it. He says, establish your days in consciousness and unfoldment. Day has no routine. When you awaken, know that you have time and opportunity to do all things that you need to do this day. Declare that there is one mind, that all things are already done in mind, and that you have not a thing to do but to be clear in consciousness so that mind may unfold. And that the day is God's day, and that there is His purpose for the day. Everything is already established in mind. I've kept this really in mind ever since I came across it and use it almost every day to establish the fact that everything I need to do is already done. Now, this particular morning, I had to still continue to work, and I was getting a little worried about what would I do about the calls that would come in that day. But going back and firmly declaring that principle is at work and nothing can interrupt what I had to do that day. It was towards noon, and I felt really very clear and calm. And right after that, one call after the other at perfect intervals so that I was able to do the work I had to do. I am so grateful for God's government, that He does indeed set the pace, He governs everything, and indeed, if I am clear, very clear, that nothing can stop what I have to do for Him, indeed, nothing can stop it. I'm just so grateful for learning this and for the evidence of it, that God indeed is the only governor of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll read a few things from our church website bulletin board. The first from Georgia. Thank you all for the roundtables. I have started listening to all of them, starting from the beginning, and the lessons are so valuable. I can't tell you how grateful I am that these are made available on the website. And then Costa Rica. What a wonderful service today, January 18th. The music, the testimony reading, Faith and Peter singing, all the reading. Psalms 84 came to mind, who passing through the valley of Baca, which means bemoaning, make it a well, Braca, blessing. Our church ever at work to convert Baca into Braca. Hallelujah. And then another from Georgia, another amazing roundtable. Thank you for the illustration of Daniel. It was extremely helpful. And from Pennsylvania, thank you, Shahidat, for all the powerful Bible study questions that clearly showed love at work in the Christ waiting for God's timing to go to Lazarus. And then New Jersey, what a wonderful liberator. This is the best magazine yet. I could not put it down. So inspiring, healing, and uplifting. Thank you all who contributed and put it together. And then a couple from Illinois. What a beautiful healing service last night. The reading and testimonies were wonderful, and fairly your reading of the Bible passages of Jesus' conversation with the Pharisees was deeply moving. Thank you all. And thank Tom for last week's Bible study in Esther. You did a great job putting all that together. It's really meaningful to do a deeper dive into these Bible stories, how relevant they are to our lives today. And then this is a new name from Wisconsin. I am planning to join the Plainfield Church, and I do like the idea of being independent. Recently, I've become aware of some of the actions of the Boston directors, including the experience of Plainfield, and I find myself as rather disgusted at their arrogance. This is what Mrs. Eddy sought to avoid. I have been trying to reconcile what I saw as a decline in Christian Science churches and membership with what should be a vibrant, living practice as it was at the turn of the 20th century. I am a firm believer in the statement, quote, "By their fruits ye shall know them," end quote. And I think Boston needs to turn around even to stay relevant. Perhaps together and with God, we can make Christian Science what it should be. Thank you all with trust in God. And this is from Jim in Arizona. He wrote a little treatment for our church. Plainfield Church is a perfect idea of God. There is no possible chance of any malpractice or malicious animal magnetism entering or disturbing the peace, comfort, and harmony and the unity of the church. And then he writes, yesterday I had a minister visit me, and I realized he knew essentially nothing about Christian Science. I reviewed with him 1 John, suggesting that God is love, and then John again, where we are reminded of God is truth. Then we reviewed the 7 synonyms for God, and finally I offered him a Science and Health, and he graciously accepted it, and I am so grateful. Lovingly. Recently I had someone say and talk to me about the fact that she very much desired to feel the presence of God, and yet she felt she couldn't. And I thought about that a lot. It was certainly something that I had struggled with. I talked about God a lot and could quote things, but really feeling his presence was something else that I hadn't experienced, or at least not to any great extent. And I have really realized in order to obey him and to do the things we are required to do, it is good to feel his presence, to have a sense that he's a vital part of our life, which he, of course, is. He is our life. Couldn't be more vital than that. But in thinking about this, I thought of a couple of things that have helped me so much in getting to feel God's presence. And the first is to really want to feel his presence, to have that as the greatest desire of your being. In the commandment it says that God is a jealous God. And if you have a lot of other interests or a lot of other distractions, and it's really easy to do that in this world today, it's easy to cramp God out, not to spend any time with him, not to feel that deep yearning within, to get to know God, to know him as our best and ever friend, as the hymn says. So first is that deep desire, the desire above all else. And in Jeremiah, it says, "Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me, and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart, and I will be found of you, saith the Lord." And then the second part is I once read an article years ago. It was called Practice the Presence, and it was about practicing the presence of God. The second part is to know he does exist. He is right there with you. He is your best and ever friend. He's your mind, your life, truth, love, all those things. He's there with you every moment of every day. So to be aware of it, to look for God in everything that you do, turn to him, always thinking about him, and mainly be grateful for all the good that you see and realize that its source does come from God. I love this quote from Mrs. Eddy, where she says that, "I tell you the truth when I say there is only one source of all good, God. The conscious recognition and acceptance of this fact, acknowledged by every activity of the mind, not 2 or 3 times a day, but every few moments all day long, no matter what the outer self is doing, and this maintained, will enable anyone to express his perfect freedom and dominion over all things human. So Mrs. Eddy is saying here, every moment of every day to acknowledge the source of all good being God good and to be so grateful for it. If you do those 2 things, you're really on the road to knowing God, to feeling His presence, and there's really no greater thing on this earth than that. And I thank everyone tonight for the wonderful testimonies of substance and the wonderful readings tonight.
Thank you.